All right, thanks, guys. We are 15-4-2 in our college football tier on patreon.com/Brock Page. I just want to make something very clear. I know there was some confusion about that record. That's not my record last week. That's not my record on YouTube. YouTube is just leans, just analysis, going through the games. When I say I'm 15-4-2 in my college football package, I'm referring to the membership that I provide on patreon.com/Brock Page. Link for that site is in the description section below. It's a completely different website than this YouTube channel. And speaking of Patreon, we're also 24-1 in our last 25 daily double picks. If you want access to that website, it's free to take a look at. Link is in the description section below. All right, guys, we got ourselves a nice full slate of college football action for Week 7, so let's go ahead and begin with Virginia taking on Miami, and that's going to be a Friday night, 8 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Miami's -1, total 45, so a 1.5-point fade of Miami, movement upward on the total. The Canes open 2.5 down to -1. Total open 42.5 up to 45. 66% of the consensus is leaning toward Virginia. 57% shaded toward the over. Right now the Cavaliers are +102 on the road. Virginia's 4-1 on the year, 3-2 against the spread. Miami's 2-3 on the year, 2-3 against the number. Miami's also just 3-7 against the spread in their last 10 head-to-head matchups with Virginia. The Canes have failed to cover in 7 out of their last 9 conference games. They're also 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 against Virginia as the official home team. Now, Virginia on the other side, they are 3-2 to the over thus far in the year. Miami 2-1 to the over at home. I'm going to lean toward the slight road dog in this one. Give me Virginia +1 and the under 45 in that game. Next matchup, Colorado taking on Oregon, 10 o'clock Eastern kickoff there. Oregon's -20.5, total 57 and a hook. 51% are leaning Oregon, 58% leaning toward the over. Right now, Colorado's +900 on the money line. The Buffaloes are 3-2 on the year, 3-2 against the spread. Meanwhile, the Ducks on the other side, 4-1 straight up on the season. They're also 6-0 straight up in their last 6 at home, 4th in home scoring, 2nd in points allowed at home. Now, Colorado on the other side, they have failed to cover in 7 out of their last 10. They're also just 3-6 ATS in their last 9, taking on the Ducks. Colorado ranks 101st in points allowed. They're also 120th in pass yards as well. So on the total side of things, Oregon 4-1 to the under on the year, 8-1 to the under in their last 9. I'm going to purchase the 0.5 point, buy it down, and take Oregon -20 and the under 57.5 in that game. Next matchup, Memphis taking on Temple, 12 o'clock Eastern kickoff this Saturday. Memphis is -5, total 50 and a hook. Saw movement toward Memphis and movement upward on the total. Memphis open 4.5 up to 5. Total open 50 up to 50.5. 54% of the consensus is leaning toward Memphis. 72% shaded toward the under. Right now, the Owls of Temple are +175 on the money line. Temple's 4-1 on the year, 3-2 against the spread. Temple's also 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 head-to-head matchups with Memphis. The Owls are 3-0 against the spread at home, and I'm almost positive that all 3 of those home games were played at Lincoln Financial Field, which is where the Philadelphia Eagles play. Anyway, Temple 15th in points allowed at home as well. Now, Memphis on the other side, they are 68th in offensive pass yards on the road, 75th in rushing yards allowed. When it comes to the total, Temple's 3-1 to the under in their last 4, 2-1 to the under at home. I'm going to lean toward the home dog in this one. Give me Temple +5 and the under 50.5 in that game. And before we go ahead and move on, just want to take another quick timeout and welcome you to the show. Got some lines of personal leans out for college football week 7. We are moving along quite fastly here in this football season. Before we go ahead and move on, just want to quickly remind you once again to check me out on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage, where we are 15-4-2 in our college football package. Once again, that's on Patreon. That's not here on YouTube. Let's get that straight. We're 15-4-2 in our college football package on the year on patreon.com/BrockPage. We're also 20 wins, 4 losses, and 1 push in our last 25 daily double picks. That membership costs you just $2.99 per month. Very good information there. There's also plenty of free content there as well, including my current record amongst all of my different memberships and tiers. The link for that site is in the description section below. That is patreon.com/BrockPage. All right, guys, let's go ahead and dive back into some more lines of personal leans. All starts Eastern Standard Time. And on deck, we've got Michigan taking on Illinois, 12 o'clock Eastern kickoff this Saturday. Michigan's minus 21.5, total 51. A lot of movement in this one. And much to my surprise, we actually saw a 2-point move toward Michigan. We also saw movement downward on the total. The Wolverines opened 19.5 up to 21 and a hook. Total open 54.5 down to 51. 61% of the consensus is leaning toward the Wolverines. 67% shaded toward the under. Right now, the Fighting Illini are plus $10 on the money line. Illinois is 2-1 against the spread at home this year. Meanwhile, Michigan 2-3 against the number overall for the season. The Fighting Illini, believe it or not, have successfully covered the number in 5 out of their last 10 head-to-head meetings with the Wolverines. Meanwhile, Michigan failing to cover in 7 out of their last 9 ball games. They're also 1-6 ATS in their last 7 when traveling. The Wolverines rank 105th in offensive time of possession. They're also 89th in rush yards allowed per game on average. Now, total-wise, Michigan 5-2 to the over in their last 7. Illinois 80% to the over in their last 5 at home. I'm going to lean toward the home dog. Give me Illinois plus 21.5 in the over 51 in that game. Next matchup. Oklahoma, Texas. Let me see if I have that on the board here. I probably should. Yeah, there we go. Oklahoma taking on Texas. 12 o'clock Eastern kickoff there. Oklahoma's minus 10.5, total 75. 54% are leaning Longhorns. 67% shaded toward the over. Right now, Texas is plus 320 for an outright win. The Longhorns are 4-1 straight up on the year, 3-2 against the number. No, they had depending on where you're shopping at, a nice cover on the road at West Virginia this past week. Now, Texas is 5-1 straight up in their last 6, taking on a conference foe. They're also 7-2 against the number in their last 9 October games. One more thing to add about Texas, they are 11-3 against the number in their last 14 matchups as the official Vegas underdog. Now, the Longhorns are 13th in scoring on average per game, 10th in passing yards on average per game as well. Meanwhile, Oklahoma on the other side, 71st in rushing yards allowed per game, 60th in yards allowed per play. When it comes to the total, Oklahoma 2-0 to the under away from home, 2-1 to the under in their last 3. I'm going to purchase the half a point, buy it up, and take Texas plus 11 and the under 75 in that game. Next matchup, South Carolina taking on the Bulldogs of Georgia, and that's going to be a noon Eastern kickoff there. Georgia's 24.5, total 52 and a hook. We saw a 3-point move downward on the total in this one. Once again, UGA minus 24.5, total open 55 and a hook, down to 52.5. 59% are leaning Bulldogs, and at the moment, the Gamecocks are plus 1,400 on the money line. Now, South Carolina is 2-3 straight up on the year. Meanwhile, Georgia 5-0 on the year, 3-2 against the number, 11th in scoring, 4th in yards per play. They're also a perfect 10-0 straight up in their last 10 at home. They're 6-0 against the number in their last 6, taking on a conference opponent. Now, South Carolina on the other side, losers in 5 out of their last 6, taking on Georgia. They've also failed to cover in 4 out of those 6 games. One more thing to add about South Carolina, they are 116th in offensive time of possession. You know that defense is gassed by the fourth quarter. Now, total-wise, South Carolina 7-3 to the over in their last 10 head-to-head matchups with the Bulldogs. 4-1 to the over in their last 5 in Georgia. Give me the Bulldogs minus 24.5 and the over 52 and a hook. Next game, Bama, Texas A&M. And that's going to be a 3:30 Eastern kickoff. So let's go ahead and dive down into our 3 o'clock slate. There we go. Bama at Texas A&M, 3:30 Eastern kickoff. Is that a neutral site game? I'm sorry, I capped so many games. Bama taking on Texas A&M, 3:30 Eastern kickoff. Alabama's minus 17, total 59.5. Saw a 2.5 point fade of Texas A&M in the early wagering. Once again, the Crimson Tide, minus 17, total 61 down to 59 and a hook. 65% are leaning Bama, 87% shaded toward the over. Right now, the Aggies are plus 600 on the money line. Texas A&M is 3-2 on the year, 3-2 against the number. Meanwhile, Alabama failed to cover in 3 out of their 5 ball games. Right now, Texas A&M is 17th in offensive time of possession, 19th in points allowed. They're also 4-3 against the number in their last 7 taking on the Crimson Tide. One more thing to add about Texas A&M. They are 7-1 straight up in their last 8 at home. Now, Alabama, on the other side, failed to cover in 6 out of their last 8 ball games. When it comes to the total, Alabama's 3-2 to the over. Texas 2-1 to the over at home. I'm going to lean Aggies plus 17 and the over 59.5 in that game. Next matchup, Cincinnati taking on Houston. 3:30 Eastern kickoff there. Cincinnati's minus 7, total 55. Saw a 2-point move towards Cincy and movement upward on the total. Cincinnati opened minus 5 up to minus 7. Total open 54 up to 55. 51% are leaning Bearcats. 57% shaded toward the over. Right now, Houston's plus 215 on the money line. The Cougars are also 3-2 against the spread on the season. Houston 8-1 straight up in their last 9 at home, 5-0 straight up in their last 5 games played in the month of October. One more thing to add about Houston, they are 15th in rushing yards per game. Now, Cincinnati on the other side have failed to cover in their last 5 Week 7 ball games. So once again, they are 0-5 against the spread in their last 5 Week 7 ball games. If you're into historical trends, once again, Cincinnati 80th in scoring, 79th in passing yards on average per game. When it comes to the total, Cincinnati's 3-1 to the under. I'm going to lean Houston plus 7 and the under 55 in that game. Next matchup, Florida State taking on Clemson. And we must have passed that one. There it is. Florida State taking on Clemson, 3:30 Eastern kickoff at Clemson. The Tigers are 27, total 60.5. Saw a 3-point move downward on the total in this one. Once again, Clemson minus 27, total open 63.5, down to 60 and a hook. 51% are leaning Seminoles, 53% leaning toward the under. Right now, Florida State is plus $21 on the money line. Florida State's also 2-3 against the number on the year. Clemson on the other side, 5-0 straight up, 3-2 against the spread. They've successfully covered the number in 2 out of their last 3 ball games. They're also 6-2 ATS in their last 8, dating back to last year. Clemson, 4th in points allowed, 6th in yards allowed per play. Meanwhile, Florida State on the other side, failing to cover in 7 out of their last 10 head-to-head matchups with the Tigers. They're also just 2-8 ATS in their last 10 as the official Vegas underdog. Now, total-wise, Florida State 3-2 to the over on the year. Clemson 2-1 to the over at home. I'm going to lean Tigers minus 27 and the over 60.5 in that game. Next matchup, Michigan State taking on Wisconsin. And that is a 3:30 Eastern kickoff in that game. Wisconsin is minus 10, totals at 40. Saw a 0.5 point fade of Wisconsin and movement downward on the total. Wisconsin opened 10.5 down to minus 10. Total open 42.5 down to 40. 64% are leaning Badgers, 55% leaning toward the under. Right now the Spartans are plus 350 on the money line. Michigan State has failed to cover in 4 out of their 6 ball games this year. Meanwhile, the Badgers on the other side, 5-0 straight up on the year, 4-1 against the spread. Wisconsin is 12th in scoring, 2nd in time of possession, 1st in points allowed. Really, really good on the defensive side of things. and they are first in rushing yards allowed as well. Now, Sparty on the other side, it's going to be real tough sledding for them in this game. They've also failed to cover in 8 out of their last 10 games. They're just 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 conference opponents. They're 85th in rushing yards per game as well. When it comes to the number, Michigan State 8-2 to the over in their last 10 head-to-head matchups with the Badgers. I'm going to lean Wisconsin -10 in the over 40 in that game. Next matchup, Washington State taking on Arizona State. That game is not on our big board behind me. But anyway, Washington State taking on Arizona State. And that is a 3:30 Eastern kickoff. Arizona State's -2.5, total 59. We did see a half a point move toward the Sun Devils in the early wagering. Arizona State opened 2, up to 2.5, totals 59. 58% are leaning Arizona State, 66% shaded toward the over. Right now, Washington State is +115 on the money line. The Cougars are 3-2 straight up on the year. Meanwhile, the Sun Devils failed to cover in 3 out of their 5 ball games. Arizona State's 103rd in scoring on average per game, 97th in rushing yards per game on average as well. They failed to cover in 5 out of their last 7, dating back to last year. Arizona State is also just 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 at home. Now, Washington State on the other side, they are 4th in scoring, 1st in passing yards per game, 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 when traveling. They're also 7-3 straight up in their last 10 conference games. Now, total-wise, Wazoo is 3-2 to the under on the year. Arizona State 4-1 to the under on the season themselves. I'm going to lean Washington State +3 after buying the half a point and the under 59 in that game. Next matchup, Texas Tech taking on Baylor, and that is a 4 o'clock Eastern kickoff in that matchup there. Baylor's -10, total 58, so a half a point fade of Baylor and movement downward on the total. The Bears open 10.5, down to -10, total open 60, down to 58. 58% are leaning Texas Tech, 62% shaded toward the over. Right now, Texas Tech is +305 on the money line. The Raiders are also 3-2 straight up on the year, 3-2 against the spread. Texas Tech is 33rd in passing yards on average per game, 9th in number of plays run, and they are 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 in Baylor, if you're into historical trends. Now, Baylor is 84th in defensive time of possession, so once again, by the second half, this team is absolutely gassed. Their defense on the field an awful lot so far on the year. They're also 50th in offensive pass yards per game. When it comes to the total, Baylor 7-2 to the over in their last 9, taking on Texas Tech. I'm going to lean toward the Raiders of Texas Tech, +10, and the over 58 in that game. Next matchup, Louisville, Wake Forest, and that should be on our board. Come on now. That's a 7:30 Eastern kickoff. We got to have that one there. No, it's not. Wow. Anyway, Louisville taking on Wake Forest, 7:30 Eastern kickoff in that matchup there. Wake Forest is -6.5, total 66. So a half a point fade of Wake Forest and movement upward on the total. The Demon Deacons open -7, down to 6.5, total open 64.5, up to 66. Louisville 67% taking the consensus. So once again, 67% is leaning toward Louisville, 60% shaded toward the over. Right now, the Cardinals are +200 on the money line. Now, Jawan Pass is questionable with a foot injury. That is obviously their quarterback. So once again, Jawan Pass listed as questionable for this game. Wake Forest on the other side, they are 5-0 straight up on the year, 3-2 against the spread, 2-1 against the number at home, 5-1 against the number in their last 6, taking on Louisville. And they're also 3rd in offensive plays run per game, 3rd in the number of offensive plays run per game. So really dominant when it comes to that time of possession. Wake Forest also 18th in passing yards, 36th in defensive time of possession. When it comes to this Louisville team, they are 91st in passing yards, 63rd in passing yards allowed, 0-5 against the spread in their last 5 on the road, 0-8 against the spread in conference play in their last 8 conference games. Now, total-wise, we're looking at a Wake Forest team who's 3-2 to the under thus far in the year. I'm going to purchase the half a point, slide it down, and take Wake Forest -6 and the under 66 in that game. Next matchup, Penn State taking on Iowa. 7:30 Eastern kickoff at Kinnick Stadium. Penn State's 4.5, total 42 and a hook. Saw a 1.5 point move toward Penn State and movement downward on the total. The Nittany Lions open -3 up to 4.5. Total open 44 down to 42 and a hook. 61% are leaning Nittany Lions. 59% shaded toward the under. Right now, Iowa's +160 on the money line. The Hawkeyes are 4-1 straight up on the year. They're also 3rd in offensive time of possession, 29th in rush yards per game, 3rd in points allowed, and 10th in rush yards allowed per game on average. Now, Penn State on the other side, they've failed to cover in 4 out of their last 5 at Kinnick Stadium. They're also just 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 Week 7 contests. Penn State, 112th in offensive time of possession, 72nd in number of plays on defense. So that defense definitely on the field, an awful lot for the Nittany Lions. Now, total-wise, Penn State 2-0 to the over in Big Ten play. Iowa 6-1 to the over in their last 7 Week 7 contests themselves. I'm going to purchase the half a point, buy it up, and take Iowa +5 and the over 42.5 in that game. Next matchup, USC Notre Dame, and that is a 7:30 matchup there as well. Notre Dame's -10.5, total 57 and a hook. Saw a 1 point fade of Notre Dame and movement downward on the total. The Fighting Irish open 11.5 down to 10.5. Total open 61 down to 57 and a hook. 60% are leaning Irish, 81% shaded toward the over. Right now, the Trojans are +330 on the money line. USC is just 2-3 against the spread on the year. Meanwhile, Notre Dame 4-1 straight up, 4-1 against the number. They are 22nd in scoring, 24th in yards per play. Notre Dame's also 27th in points allowed and 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 at home. Now, USC on the other side has been riddled with a slew of injuries. They're also just 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 on the road. 102nd in offensive time of possession, 94th in rush yards allowed per game. Now, total-wise, USC 3-2 to the under on the year, 2-0 to the under on the road. Meanwhile, Notre Dame 3-2 to the under on the season themselves. I'm going to purchase the hook, buy it down, and take Notre Dame -10 and the under 57.5 in that game. Next matchup, Florida taking on LSU. 8 o'clock Eastern kickoff there. LSU is -13.5, total 54 and a hook. So a half a point move toward LSU and movement downward on the total. The Tigers open 13 up to 13.5. Total open 55.5 down to 54 and a hook. 55% are leaning Gators, 51% leaning toward the under. Right now, Florida's +400 on the money line. The Gators are also 6-0 straight up on the year, 4-2 against the spread. Florida is a perfect 10-0 straight up in their last 10 ball games dating back to last year. They're also 5-0 straight up in their last 5 on the road. 7-2 against the spread in their last 9, 5th in points allowed. Now, the Tigers of LSU are 5-5 against the spread in their last 10, taking on the Gators. They're also 104th in offensive time of possession, 71st in pass yards allowed. Now, when it comes to the total, Florida's 5-1 to the under thus far in the season. I'm going to purchase the half a point, buy it up, and take the Gators +14 and the under 54.5 in that game. Next matchup we have is off the board, not off the board literally, but it's off our board, but it's going to be Utah taking on Oregon State, 8 o'clock Eastern kickoff there. Utah's -13.5, total 59 and a hook. So a half a point move toward Utah, moving downward on the total. The Utes opened 13 up to 13.5. Total opened 61 down to 59 and a hook. 58% are leaning Utah. And at the moment, Oregon State is +425 on the money line. Oregon State 4-1 against the spread on the year. Utah 2-3 ATS on the year. I'm going to lean Oregon State +14 after buying the hook in the under 59.5 in that game. And our next and final matchup for the show, it is going to be Hawaii-Boise State. I'm going to lean Boise -11 and the over 60 in that game.